He was halfway to the hotel entrance when he stopped. He turned around. The cab was gone, already absorbed into the stream of traffic moving uptown. He stood on the sidewalk and looked at the street for a moment. Then he looked at his hands. Then he started walking, not running, not calling out, just walking quickly in the direction the cab had gone, which was already useless because New York and 1953 did not stop for anything. The Trumpet was in a case on the back seat. The case he had put there himself and somehow left there when he got out. The trumpet he had played for 7 years. Louis Armstrong was not a careless man. He was, by every account of people who traveled and worked with him, organized in the specific way that performers who spend their lives in transit have to be. The trumpet was always with him. In hotels, it went on a specific surface. In cars, it came with him when he got out. He had rules about it, the kind of rules you develop when you have lost things and learned from losing them. That evening, something had broken the rule. An early call at the hotel, a conversation with someone on the sidewalk, a moment of distraction of the ordinary kind that happens to everyone eventually. The case stayed on the back seat. The door closed. The cab pulled away. He went back to the hotel and told his valet, a man named James, who had been with him for several years, what had happened. James said later that Armstrong's face during this explanation was not panicked. It was something closer to very still. The kind of stillness that happens when something has gone wrong and you haven't yet decided what to do about it. They started making calls. The taxi company, the police lost and found, the hotels where the driver might have turned it in, on the unlikely chance that the driver had opened the case and understood what he had and decided the right thing to do was return it rather than keep it. The trumpet was not found that night. Louis Armstrong had a specific relationship with his instruments that is worth understanding. He was not, in the way of some performers, attached to a particular trumpet as an extension of his identity that could not be replaced. He was practical about instruments in certain ways. He played on what worked. He replaced things when they needed replacing. But a trumpet played for 7 years develops a particular quality of relationship. The mouthpiece wears to the exact configuration of your lips. The valves respond to your specific touch. The weight becomes familiar in a way that is mostly unconscious and only becomes visible when it's gone. He played the next night's performance on a borrowed trumpet. Those who were there said it was fine. Nobody who hadn't been told would have known. Louis Armstrong could make any trumpet sound like Louis Armstrong. The instrument was not the source. But people who knew him well said he played that night with a quality of concentration that was different from usual, more deliberate, more searching, like a man trying to find in unfamiliar equipment something he usually found without looking. He kept making calls about the lost trumpet in the days that followed. It was not found. The cab driver was never identified. The trumpet disappeared into New York City the way a lot of things disappear into New York City, which is to say, completely and without explanation. What he didn't do, and what the people around him noted, was make a large production of the loss. He mentioned it. He pursued the reasonable steps. He accepted when those steps came to nothing. He moved on. But James, his valet, said that Armstrong mentioned the trumpet in small ways for a long time afterward. Not mournfully, not in the way of a man who hadn't gotten over something, more in the way of a man who keeps thinking about a question that doesn't have an answer. Who had the trumpet now? What were they doing with it? Whether they knew what it was? There is something in this that says something about what Louis Armstrong understood about music and the things that carry it. A trumpet is a physical object. It is brass and valves and a precise configuration of tubing. It is not the music. The music comes from the person playing it, from everything they have learned and felt and carried, and it goes into the trumpet and out the bell and into the room, and it happens there, between the player and the listeners. And when it's over, it's gone. Not stored in the brass, not waiting in the case. Gone, and also permanent, in the way that things that have happened are permanent, even though they're over. He knew this. He knew that the trumpet on the back seat of the cab was not the music. But it was the specific object through which the music had passed for 7 years, and there is something real in that, even if it can't be precisely named. He found another trumpet that he was satisfied with within a few weeks. He adapted quickly, as he had always adapted to the things that changed around him that he couldn't control. The new trumpet became familiar. The old one stayed lost. About a year later, a musician Armstrong knew slightly, a trumpet player named George, who worked the club circuit in Chicago, got in touch. He had been playing a session at a venue on the north side and struck up a conversation with the house pianist, a man who had recently acquired a second trumpet that he was trying to sell. When George looked at it, something about the wear pattern on the mouthpiece and the specific scratches on the bell seemed familiar. He took the serial number. He made calls. It was Armstrong's trumpet. How it had traveled from a New York taxi in 1953 to a Chicago house pianist in 1954 was a route that was never fully reconstructed. The pianist said he'd bought it from a man at a bar who said he'd gotten it from someone else. The chain of custody was the kind of thing that exists in cities and cannot be cleanly traced. The trumpet was returned to Armstrong. He examined it carefully, played a few notes, set it down. He said it was good to have it back. He said it had been through some things. He played it for several years more. George, the musician who had tracked it down, said he asked Armstrong once if he'd been worried about the trumpet in the months it was missing. Armstrong said he'd thought about it some. Then he said something George remembered clearly enough to tell people for the rest of his life. Everything gets lost eventually. The only question is whether it comes back before you stop needing it. The trumpet came back. Louis Armstrong was still playing, still needing it. Some things get lost in New York and stay lost. Some things travel through a year and a city and a chain of hands and come back to the person who knew how to use them. He put it in the case. He put the case exactly where it always went. And the next night, he played.